functioning in like, oh, I've got an idea yet mode. So
Well,
go.
that's because we are Parallax. We are Parallax, and this is a comedy podcast now. I don't know if you know this. And we are
Don't be
allowed to.
offended. It doesn't, we're not trying to hurt your feelings.
No, but I mean this. It should be a postmodern comedy podcast. And
Yeah, and
so,
we can use the word penis too, or dick, or whatever word you like. It's fine. If you don't like what words we're using, we can just write us and tell us, and we'll try to change our language to
yeah, and
become
you know
more
what?
more tasteful. Yeah.
Yeah, and the good thing is, the good thing being the bad guys, in all of this, is that we don't get enamored with our own ideas and pretend we have the solution for everything.
Yeah.
So as like many movements on the internet, it's like that's bullshit, you know?
We don't have a grand theory of everything. Um, we don't have a major stake in the culture war. We're neither left nor right. You know, we're neither Trump or anti-Trump. We're just we're just bumbling along.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
humility to that, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's
Epistemological. Somebody said like when people use the word epistemological humility, it's
mm,
the most arrogant fucking guy who says that word because it's like, oh, I'm using the word epistemological humility. I must be really humble, or I'm using the big fancy words to talk about
how
simple
about
shit.
epistemological humidity in that thing?
Epistemological what?
Epistemological humidity. How about that?
Humidity?
Yeah.
Epistemological humidity? What's that?
That's being, taken, being so enamored with their own ideas that you're taking up with the ass. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to a guy you met named Fabrice Mudel. He's doing a philosophy course in France. He's a big star here, and he does like YouTube philosophy now. And I was listening to his introduction to his philosophy course last night, and he was saying most people think that philosophy is about like complicating your life, but it's actually about simplicity. It's about like it's about like real simplicity, like because most of what you get in the world and what people say and do is bullshit, right? So philosophy normally says, Plato normally says, or he says no, 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 I'm not following that line of bullshit that you're onto. I'm questioning that. I'm putting that into perspective. No matter what place you're coming from, no matter where how virtuous you are or how repugnant you are, whatever is your trip, there's like put it into question and get down to something more basic, like your pussy or your dick.
Yeah, well, Andrew. I mean, the funny thing was we went to Paris, we went, basically like 5 years ago. It is 5 years ago already. And so we went to La Défense to his place, and it was, in one of these high rises where, his whole apartment was painted in yellow. He had like a yellow suit and yellow glasses. And then we were
And
sitting in the
yellow
foyer.
shoes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then we were sitting like you, Andrew, you, Alexander, and I. We were sitting like in the foyer in the big sofa, like
big yellow sofa.
and waited for an audience, basically, for with Fabrice Medal. That was kind of funny, you know.
He's a prince, basically. He's
Yeah.
basically a prince. He's a prince, and you have to go to his penthouse in La Défense, um, which is like it's like the ugliest part of Paris, but he's on the top floor of La Défense, so he has a 180 360-degree view of Paris from up there, and yeah. Somebody comes in and serves you tea as you wait and sit on his yellow couch, and he arrives with his yellow jacket and his yellow shoes and his yellow glasses, rimmed glasses, and um,
You call
he's a
that
funny guy.
neurodivergent nowadays, you
See,
know?
people are way too or normal these days. They're way too, there's not enough eccentricity like in the world today. So we need people like Fabers, I think.
I
We
don't
need
know
like aristocratic lords and things like that to come back.
if that's the thing with yellow, but I know if you're long enough in a red room, you don't see the red anymore. It's like some weird neurological effect that all the colors vanish if you're like in a room where every object is kind of red. And
Hmm.
so and so I
Yeah.
don't know if he's going for something like this. I mean, he's a Buddhist, isn't he?
Well, I mean, he's a tantric Buddhist, and there is a reason for yellow. Yeah, there's a reason for all the colors and their effect and what so yellow is in the southern direction, and it's a color of enriching. It's the color of um, the Buddha wore yellow robes. There's various reasons for colors in tantric Buddhism and why you use them, and you can use them to manifest stuff. So
Ah, yeah, what stuff?
his yellow is sort of like it's the enriching color.
Mm,
That's why he has so much success and money and fame, and
because of the color.
because he's using yellow to attract.
Well, the
Um,
Spire Dynamics people use yellow as well, but that doesn't bode them very well. You know?
what
It,
is
it
yellow for them?
yeah, well, yellow is like the integral stage, basically, the more advanced,
Mm,
stage where everything
mm,
seems,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. But I
yeah.
think in terms of the integrals, yeah, Spiral Dynamics uses yellow because of the sun. So their color coding, is orange is because of the industrial furnaces, and green is because eco green, and so red is blood, and so you have like the color coding, which is bullshit by the way. But anyway,
Well, there's a psychological effect to colors, and there's a whole art to how you use colors. Like black, for example, everybody is absorbs every color, so it's the color of absorption, right?
yeah.
White tends to be a healing color, and it does all sound like bullshit, but also it's subtle, and there is truth to these things.
Yeah.
Rare is what red is the color that's very rare. It's you don't see it as much, so it catches your attention more.
Mm. Mm. I'm thinking a lot about disenchantment these days.
Hmm. Why? Because everything I just said you think is bullshit.
No, I mean
You're
this too,
disenchanted with
obviously.
me. Is that what you're saying? I'm disenchanted with your bullshit talk,
Yeah,
Andrew.
yeah. No, no, I was like, I was thinking because we're talking about, integral and all these things and colors, and the recent days I was just thinking about different stages of, enlightenment, and I don't mean like necessarily spiritual enlightenment, but we had the modern enlightenment with Kant and basically the disenchantment of religion, you know and I feel like what we're like experiencing now collectively is just like this big disenchantment with democracy and progress and all these and media
Mhm.
and politics and all these kinds of things, and that's why Parallax views now a disenchanted comedy podcast.
Actually, I'm disenchanted with disenchantment.
Yeah, is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody's disenchanted. It's like the meaning crisis. It's like modernity. It's like
Right,
boring.
right. So what's at the end of the disenchantment tunnel?
Enchantment.
With what?
Well, it comes back to the original subject of this discussion.
Which was?
Well, I guess you could be disenchanted with pussy, but
No,
or
I don't
dick,
think so.
but you're never disenchanted with that stuff, right? Even
That
when
would
you
be
are,
bad. That would
you,
be
you
bad.
get back up and you're ready to go again.
No, but seriously, like what's the enchantment at the end of the disenchantment tunnel?
I don't know, just just well, again, I told you in our family we turn off our machines, right? Every Saturday, And it occurred to me how much anxiety we have in our bodies because of digital technology, most of the time. And we don't even notice. It's kind of a low level of anxiety that everybody feels. And it's being stimulated by stuff, right? There's hyperstimulation all the time, you know, dopamine hit and whatever. But but there's an intense boredom at the same time. So it's like you're being stimulated all the time, and then you're extremely bored. Or so it's like this universal addiction that everybody has that puts them on a lower level of enchantment, right? So you turn all that shit off for a day, and you kind of you notice the world. You notice, you turn off your porn, and then you notice the orgy of the real world, happening around you. You notice the orgy of nature and the sensuality of things, and you notice a cat walking along the wall, and things you don't kind of notice when your head is in a black box all the time. You notice your family and your kids, and start to talk to each other in a different way. And it's like Marshall McLuhan talked about that a long time ago, how we need digital fasting or digital detox. Or I think that's the way to re-enchant the world. If you just keep feeding your mind whatever the fuck is going on at the time, and just feeding your mind with that shit and commenting on it relentlessly, and being paranoid, being excited, going through this kind of like titillation, and then horror, and then outrage, and then titillation again, and then irony, and then boredom, and then all of that is you just get bored of it. You just get sickened by it. It just feels disgusting. So then you're re-enchanted by the actual real the world outside of the screen. I think. I think that's where enchantment kind of lies. Even though there's lots of enchanting things on the screen as well. Like I'm not saying that I don't love my Down Dog yoga app or anything like that, but or
There's like
YouTube, or I don't listen to YouTube, with or things like that, which are great. But then I don't know. I guess it's the simulacrum. It's just a boredom, and it's just a simulacrum, and it's just relentless, and it's killing people's souls relentlessly. So yeah, no wonder they're disenchanted.
the interesting thing is there are like these I don't know if you're familiar with those channels on YouTube, Gen Z kids reactor, right? And so it's like they're reacting to, old pieces of music. And I'm telling you, man, Gen Z girls reacting to hearing the Beatles for the first time, that's amazing, right?
That's what you watch.
Especially if it's like black Gen Z girls, so because, they're so trained on, the superficiality on TikTok and social media and performativity and all of this, that the moment they encounter the Beatles for the first time. It's like
Why
in my
especially
life.
black girls? What are you saying here,
Let,
Tom?
let me get to the
Be
point.
careful. I
So,
don't want us to be banned for racism
no,
here.
but I mean, it's like, no, because I feel like these channels with black people, they're like way more expressive than, like whiteys, so, but it doesn't matter. It's equally true for, what I mean is like Gen Z people, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so they're listening for the first time, let's say, to the Beatles, like in my life. And suddenly, it's like they have never felt melancholy and sadness and profound, melancholy before. And so because they're always living in the superficial realm of TikTok performativity, and then they're like, oh no, it's like I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what these feelings are. No, it's sadness. It's Eleanor Rigby, getting buried. It's like in my life, all my friends are gone. And this is like profound melancholy and sadness. And it's so funny to see these people react, to these basic human emotions, basically. It's awesome.
They don't
Like
have them anymore.
no, exactly. No, it's like they're like because it's Gen Z. It's like they're like first. discovering these feelings, or Tomorrow Never Knows. They're like blown away that some piece of art like this exists, like this weird kind of backwards, forwards flowing music, and this trippy kind. They don't know what's hitting them, and because they're doing this live on YouTube, like Gen Z girl reacting for first time listening to the Beatles, whatever. It's just amazing, because it's such an interesting case study
Mhm.
in people discovering basically these kinds of feelings for the first time. It's awesome, you know.
Yeah. Well, I notice my daughter doesn't want me to talk about her, but I'm going to anyway. She's kind of in the next room, but she's not there today. But she told me I can hear everything you say about me. So anyway, but she spends a lot of time drawing, and reading. Like she doesn't she reacts against that stuff. And I don't think she's that unusual. I think a lot of people are sort of going against that because it presents such a toxicity that there is the sane part of them is pushing against that. So yes, there is that aspect, that extroverted aspect of the Gen Z, but there's also the introverted aspect where, you have to express yourself in your interior world. And when it comes to music, she listens to all kinds of things. She doesn't just listen to what's going on now because on the algorithms, anything can show up in her algorithm. So she could listen to the old stuff and the new stuff. It's like she doesn't live in time in the same way that we used to. She doesn't live in like this is the new thing. She lives in sort of multiple times. So yeah, I'm pretty worried actually about young people in general, and I think they're pretty fucked up. I think they're in trouble in many ways. For that, perhaps for that reason, perhaps it's because they're bereft of this kind of depth or sadness, but also the elation is a pseudo eros, as
Yeah.
Gaffney says. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like I was talking with a friend about this. It's like we're all trying to figure out like what the world is right now, who we are in this world, and who we are in ourselves. And it's like, with the death of David Lynch, it's like an indicator that an old age of authenticity and authentic auteurs is kind of dying out because I mean you can go now. There was an article by Paul Schrader, this guy who wrote Taxi Driver and all these great movies, and he says, if you want to write like a script, just go to ChatGPT and ask, oh, but please create an original script like in the style and in the world of ideas like David Lynch. And so it's like I feel like all these great auteurs, this age of the great auteurs like Lynch and even the Beatles, is like this is gone, and now we're like in this circle of repetition and social media algorithms and all
Hmm.
of this, and it's weird because I mean, I think like I guess meta modernism kind of want to touch upon these kinds of trends, but can't really do it, and Integral can't do it either. And so it's a weird world that we're living in, where all the themes have been explored by Dylan, by Jean Baez, by the Beatles, or by Lynch and Ridley Scott and
Yeah.
and Kubrick. And now it's just like, how can we recombine these ideas? How can we riff off these ideas without being, without reaching in the unmarked territory of consciousness and social constructions? Like it's just a weird repetition, and social media is the best indicator for this.
Yeah,
Just
it's kind of like another Bob Dylan movie, another Beatles documentary,
right,
another Beatles song was discovered and redone with AI. It's like how much can you milk the Beatles and Bob Dylan, to death, right?
right.
Like and Bob Dylan just kind of tours around with this band and plays very weird music these days. He's just kind of a weird guy, but he wrote all these songs, and And again, I think it's like they if I guess if you have a really valuable artist, they have there's an infinite amount that you can take from them in a sense because they're very valuable, you know, they're just like there's a deep value that can be mined from that particular artist for a long time or maybe forever, like Shakespeare or something. Whereas most artists kind of are just fashion, right? They just come and go. But certain ones kind of have this. But on the other hand, you're like, you know, I haven't seen the Bob Dylan movie. It's getting rave reviews. It's supposed to be very, very good. I haven't seen it yet, and I like Bob Dylan, but I'm exhausted by the constant retro thing, and I'm like, okay, how about some? I mean, maybe there are interesting things for young people that they find interesting that are new, and maybe I just don't get them, you know. But yeah, but it's hard to find. It's hard to, yeah, as you say, it's hard to find individuals these days. They're all everything is a reference to everything else. Hard to
Yeah.
find auteurs or individuals or somebody making a really powerful individual mark. I think it's still happening. I think it's just it's hard for us to understand because we're a different generation. Like probably it's happening in rap and places that we probably don't necessarily understand or get the vibration of or can actually feel deeply because we're not exposed to that world. But
No, but I
because
mean,
I
like
think
in
that
pop.
actually the creative spirit doesn't die. It can't really die. But I think if we're trying to kill a creative spirit, we're doing a pretty good job of
Yeah, right.
killing the creative spirit as best we can, even though it can't die and it can't be killed. We're pretty damn good at, you know,
Yeah.
zombifying everything turning everything into a zombie, a replica of something that, you know, happened before that's over at the moment.
I mean that's yeah, exactly, and you know the weird disenchantment is like a friend of mine. You know he lives in London and he always goes to the Tate Museum, and so he sends me all these photos of these great paintings, and he comments on them. It's really great, but I mean this is visual arts. These are paintings from a bygone era, basically.
Mhm.
We don't do this anymore in that sense, and that what is produced as paintings nowadays runs under neo-expressionism, and it's kind of weird and weirdly unfit to be counted really as artistic paintings. It's just like people neurotically, splashing colors at the canvas. It's not that you see it's not really good. And I feel like the same, it's like we tend to think like things seem, should prolong into infinity, but there are like phases when pieces of movements in art have a beginning and a high point and an end. And I
Yeah.
feel like the same is true like for the visual arts as it is for poems in a kind of way. And movies and these kinds of
Mhm.
pop songs that we know, like the era is gone now of high creativity in movies.
Yeah.
It's like and the age of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, where we were producing so many good pop songs. This is just over, and this is like now, there's no new impetus anymore. And I do agree that we do the best to kill the creative spirit, but it will emerge in a different realm, maybe as a different form of art. But I feel like in the context of movies especially, there's nothing new there anymore. And when this old generation is going to die out of these directors and these auteurs, then we will see what we have truly lost, you know
Yeah. And I also have the feeling that for something to be new, it has to be very old at the same time, which is there's a kind of paradox there. I mean, if we're talking about Dylan when he came in, he was very new what he was doing. Nobody was doing that, but it was very old at the same time. It was biblical. It was like it was referencing some, even before that, he was referencing ancient things. He had gotten right down into the sub. So the search for novelty is a bit of a joke, and I think that's the reason why art sucks so much is because people are trying to be novel, and whereas probably the best thing to do in an age where there's not much creativity going on is to work really hard on one particular genre or tradition until you can break that, right? Just like Cézanne was trained in classical painting until he was able to, you know, he mastered that, and then he took all his classical paintings and put them in a barn and came up with, a perspectival, um, yeah, color and the whole, and he just destroyed perspective, right?
Right.
So there's a destruction of perspective, but then what's after the destruction of perspective? You probably have to go back to this perspective again and then find a new way to destroy it. So I don't know. The stuff that appeals to me musically or artistically is not something flashy and new like the Beatles. It's always something that sounds really old, like ancient or deep and ancient. That's what
Well, I
appeals
mean,
to me.
Blackbird by the Beatles is a riff of, some stuff from Bach, which is itself a riff of way ancient, harmonies
Mhm.
and tropes. And so you have the line, historic line, through line to the
Well,
Beatles Bach. And so it's like that's the reason why it's so appealing, why that song still is so appealing, you know?
of course, and the reason the Beatles were so good is that they studied old melodies. They studied they knew melody, right? And people have forgotten melody. It's like they're just going for drums and bass and shit like that. It's super saturation, super saturated music. That's become digitalized. And is playing on your shitty computer screen. Which kind of arrests your contemplative abilities, turns you into I was thinking about that actually. I was driving around with this guy and he was playing this music in the background. It was like the shittiest music you've ever heard. And people just put that on in the background. It's like, why? What are they doing? Like, why would you put that on in the background? This kind of music that is like, yeah, 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 bah, bah, like mechanical, repetitive. The voices are tinny. The sounds are aggressive and horrible. And it's just all coming through the speaker, and he's listening to it because it relaxes him. It's like somehow that kind of music people just want to relax to music. They don't want to explore,
Yeah, it's
or
interesting because
listen or
one of these, if you actually watch these Gen Z girls reacting to the Beatles videos, is like they're always that they expect something fast and superficial. And most
Mhm.
of the songs from the Beatles, they start very slow and then they're building up, so it takes time for the themes and the tropes of the song to develop and to breathe, and this breathing in order to have an experience. And so I'm reminded of this video by David Lynch, where it's like an assistant was saying, "Oh no, should we cut the scene? Is the scene too long?" And he's like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Who gives a fucking shit about how long the fucking scene is?" And so it's like
Mhm.
everything takes its time, and you need it to breathe in order to have a full-fledged experience. But if you're
Mhm.
just, the superficial, if you're confronted with a superficial song that has like certain beats and certain intros, or a movie that is like done in a certain formula, it's like you don't have time to experience deep emotions and deep experiences with that.
or what Alex Ebert was saying. There's a certain kind of snare drum, right? Sound which is in almost every song now, right?
Right.
Because it corresponds to an emotion, right? It works. Like it creates the desired mechanical effect that it wants to, it titillizes you in the right way, and you can reproduce that. Um, and so in a way, it's like it works, but it's not. Something in the way she moves, which starts very slow and then kind of, builds up, and it has no peaks and valleys. It's all peaks. It's all saturation, you know.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like 70-year-old, trying to fuck for the first time. It's just like this. There's no, it's
mhm.
like, take your time,
Yeah.
You know, it's so fun.
Yeah.
No, actually, it's
But
like the story has a background. So because like here in Spain and Palma, so the houses are very close together, right? And you can
yeah.
see from one terrace to you basically to the next terrace and throw. It's like very close, and you can throw a stone there. And so it's like one summer, one of my neighbors, they bought, the place at the terrace, the
Yeah.
the piso, the apartment. And so their 17, 18-year-old boy came with his girlfriend for the first time. And
Uh-oh.
and what they were doing was like shagging on the terrace. And my place is not that far away from them, so I could hear them. And it was exactly like this. It was like, and he didn't know what he was doing. And she was like, "Oh no, I don't know if I like it," because it's like, and because it was how young people do sex anyway. And so I was like,
Yeah,
should I
they
just scream over, just take your time and relax,
you should
relax.
have you should have come with your drawing board and draw them some pictures and explain the whole,
Yeah,
what
no,
an
no, no.
animal.
Instead, I was just jerking
Yeah.
off in the behind the curtain. No, I wasn't.
Very
But I
good.
mean, it's so funny because, I was like, I had this weird inclination just to shout, just relax, take your time. She will like it even more, you know? And so
Yep.
that's what I feel. It's like that's what I feel with music, or it's like it has to take its time. It has to it starts slow, and then to incrementally build up and work towards a crushing crescendo, and then you could smoke a cigarette afterwards, and that's the perfect movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
sex, or music experience.
Yeah. Well, but a pop song, and the Beatles are guilty of sort of inventing pop music in many ways. Is all the songs are until later. Until their later stuff, every single song is 1 or 2, 3 minutes. It's just a short burst of power, right? And then it's over. Whereas a folk song or something like that, a longer song is like I don't know, in Moroccan folk music it goes the whole day. The song goes the whole day long. It's like,
Yeah.
and you can't even fit it on a CD. Maybe now you could record it because we have more bandwidth, but it's yeah, it's something needs to take the time that it needs to, as you say, needs to take,
But
and I
even the
think
Beatles
there's
songs
mechanical
were
time and then there's kairos, right? There's kairos and there's chronos. So people are having sex in a chronomagic kind of way, not in a kairotic fashion. Perhaps that's like they're not getting to the timeless state. They're just getting to the fast pulse of the thing, and then it's over.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, like even the Beatles had like songs with different lengths. It's like
Yeah,
I want you
later on they
heavy.
figure
I
that
want
out.
you
Yeah.
so heavy is 7 minutes. Hey
Mhm.
Jude is 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Bungalow Bill is 5 minutes. And so they had like lots of songs that kind of broke the mold on these two 90 seconds or 2 minute kind of 2 minute 30 songs.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't
yeah. Again, I think it's all about. Well, I was listening to Rick Rubin again because it's my favorite podcast, Tetragrammaton, and there was this classical composer who was on, and he's this new Swedish guy who's playing Bach. He's like his hero was Glenn Gould. I don't know if you know the Goldberg Variations.
sure.
He the Goldberg Variations are interesting because Bach wrote these pieces for a young boy named Goldberg who was just trying to. There's an old aristocrat who wanted to go to sleep, so he created these variations called Goldberg Variations. It was called Goldberg because the boy who was playing the song, he didn't even play the songs, and they were just basically lullabies, variations of different themes, because this aristocratic guy he couldn't sleep at night and had insomnia, so I think Bach wrote these at the end of his life, and Glenn Gould came along and played Goldberg Variations in this super fast, intense way, and you know there's so much melody and variety and intensity in those pieces, and so he that never existed. The Goldberg variations are part of Bach that never existed until the 1960s as something that people would play.
Right.
And so Rick Rubin was asking, is there more Bach out there? And the guy said, yes, there's lots more Bach. He wrote just an infinite amount of pieces, and somebody could go and find that piece and reinterpret it and create another revolution out of that by playing it in a different way. And the other thing he pointed out was that or what Rick Rubin said. He said, I feel like you could only exist in the time of rap. Like there's something very contemporary about your Bach. Like your Bach sounds contemporary. It sounds like now, and that's why I like it. There's a relationship to even to rap music. So it's interesting, this like relationship between time and timelessness in music, right?
Right.
Um, and how something can come from uh, something that has been left behind or dismissed or sitting in a drawer somewhere can arise and create this whole new thing.
Yeah, it's yeah. What I always find super interesting is like the format of the pop song as well. It's like what a strange format to have like 2 minute 30, 3 minute songs. Like and we consume them like little IKEA pieces of whatever. It's super weird. But
Hmm.
if it's done well, like going back again to the Beatles and let's say a song like Across the Universe, suddenly you're confronted with eternal principles within and all all the mundane time framing goes away and you are like catapulted into something else. It's super strange, the format itself, because
Hmm.
2 minute 30 is nothing. But
Yeah.
if you listen to a good song, it is something else. You experience something else. I
Well, I
mean, I
guess
think
if it's really well done, a pop song is sort of like a haiku, right? It has a strict form and it has rules, and if you do it well, it can open something up, right? Oh, that's neat.
right,
It's kind of like, a good, like, I don't know, Fleetwood Mac song or something. It's not really. It's got you can create a lot of you can compress a lot of emotion into those 3 minutes if it's done well, or if it's funny, like the Ramones had these 2 minute songs which are just they're just hilarious, right? They're just kind of and they were apparently very amazing in concert. Just the irony and the humor and the energy.
right.
So I think it's not a question of like, okay, it should be like this, or there's any particular form. Like there's any kind of form is possible. Like anything can be art in a way.
Everything can be art.
Everything can be art. Yeah.
Mm.
Even something
Even
very,
podcasting, even schmucky podcasts like this one.
even schmucky podcasts. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So do you have a joke?
No, the whole thing is a joke.
You don't have any a particular joke?
You mean like a limerick or what?
No, like a joke.
Um, no, 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 no. I don't think
I think you need to get to
it's not
work as
that
a
kind of
comic, Tom.
funny.
What?
It's not
Yeah,
that
but you
kind of
have to have
funny.
jokes if you're a comic, don't you?
No, not particularly.
Like the Lenny Bruce joke. You know the Lenny Bruce joke?
No, go ahead.
So we're living in such a beautiful world. There's so many different types of people. And here in New York, we have Jews, we have Arabs, we have, Protestants, we have so many different, groups and ethnic groups. And it's such a wonderful melting pot. I know, old and young and black and white and Hispanic and European and African. So many lovely people of different nationalities, all in one place. And it's so creative. We could just think about what we could do. We could all get together as one person and one being, and we could all, we could unite. We could get together and create something beautiful, and we could all get together and we could fucking kill those goddamn Greeks.
Okay, that had a good punchline. Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
that's funny, right?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that kind of funny.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Because
not.
that's
I'm
the only
not. I'm
joke
not
I
the.
know. So
I'm not the telling joke, haha, kind of funny podcast. I mean, like more like a comedy podcast where we just. I mean, we're doing this anyhow
we're
in a
doing it
in a
anyway.
kind of laughing and crying kind of way, from the get-go. So I think it's just about the framing, basically.
I think it would be really funny to see you cry, Tom, on the podcast.
Oh no, I'm crying all the time, man. I'm
I've
crying
never seen you
all the
cry.
time.
I've never seen you cry. I don't even believe you are capable of crying. That you have
Oh
tears
no,
in
no,
you.
because I'm German. We are conditioned from the very young age not to cry. So there you go. No, we channel
So
that in horrific incidents of mass killings, basically.
I see. I see. So what
There
do you
you
have
go.
planned? What do you have planned, Tom? What do you?
In contrast to the Canadians who are just over emoting with crying and
I cry
emotion.
every day. I cry every day. I look at the blades of grass outside. I start to cry.
And that's why
Happens to
you're
me all
so
the time.
peaceful, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm, mm. Now we have
Meanwhile,
to
we,
we have to push that down, we Germans. We have to push the emotions down that it
yeah,
doesn't come up, and then it erupts in horrific incidents of violence. Hmm?
we're also Protestant though, so we also push stuff down, and uh, we kind of like I think Germans, you know, you want to control everything. You're like, it has to be under control. And Canadians are like, I'll just go for a walk in the forest and never come back.
Yes.
We just go into space and you go into like rigidity.
Well, we invented xenophobia, so there you go.
You invented xenophobia.
Yeah, of course. We invented
Mhm.
everything. There you
Actually,
go.
that reminds me of a French guy who was trying to convince me that French people invented jazz music and rock and roll. It's like, we did it. It was the French who did it. And cinema and everything was created by the French people. And like, so because they were in New Orleans, there were some Francophone people around, and he was trying to say that he was trying to claim cultural superiority for the French people.
Do you know where the word jazz comes from, by the way?
Yes,
Yes. Okay, so
everybody knows that, Tom.
everybody knows that. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Then our educational program is over now.
We don't
We've
have to tell
done
you.
it.
Go look it up. Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. If people know that already, there's nothing left to be done. I'm telling you. We done our thing. It's.
We've done our educational duty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We done our educational duty. People know where jazz comes from, and that's it. I think
Hmm.
this was the high water mark in comedic podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What else?
That's it, man. I got nothing more. Do you,
Okay.